Yeah, so I work for International Justice Mission. We're a global organisation that protects people in poverty from violence. I've worked for them for since 2017. We have uh, 33 offices around the world in 23 countries, and we work to combat generally slavery and human trafficking and violence against women and children and police abuse of power. More than 66,000 people have been brought out of slavery and violence in the last 20 years, and we've seen slavery decrease by up to 86% in the places in which we've worked. So it's really exciting, and I love being part of it. The thing that inspires me to keep going in my job is the incredible stories that we hear of just amazingly courageous people who have walked through horrendous things into freedom. And one of those is a lady called Tayama, who's from a country in South Asia, and she and her husband, when their daughter Lavanya was 5 months old, she got really ill and they couldn't afford her medical fees, so they borrowed what the equivalent of £12 from the man that they were working for, who was the owner of a wood cutting facility, to pay for it. And the deal was that they would then work and pay back their daily wages to him to pay off the debt. But what seemed like a really good deal actually trapped them in bonded labour, slavery. He violently beat her husband and tried to assault her as well, but she managed to escape that. And they were then trapped in that situation for 3 years. And after a couple of years, she realised that she was pregnant again. And it just, what the fight in her that had died over those few years just suddenly was like reignited. And she remembered that a couple of years earlier, someone had like slipped her the phone number of an IJM investigator. And although she hadn't been willing to take the risk at that time, now that she was pregnant and desperately didn't want her child to be born into slavery, she thought it's worth it. And so she managed to get a call through to us, and we went with police and investigated the wood cutting facility, and she just thought, this is one shot. And so she stood up in front of everyone and was determined that fear, basically wasn't going to let her and her family stay in that situation of horrendous violence and abuse. And so she told them, looked the authorities in the eye, and she said, this is what has been happening to us for so long. And then gradually, one by one, the women around her stood up as well and told their stories, and then the men followed and shared their stories. And as a result of her incredible courage, she and her husband and daughter and 12 others were brought out of that situation. And the man, who she only ever calls the Beast, like that was their nickname for him, he was arrested. And so she was very, very weak and really unwell, and she was taken immediately to hospital, and she gave birth a couple of weeks later to a son called Bablu, who is now a couple of years old. And just the fact that she just gave birth to him in freedom because of her courage to speak up and tell the truth in that situation of fear, just really inspiring. And that's why I do what I do. Our vision is to see 500 million people protected from violence by 2030, and it's a major vision, and we really believe that the only way of seeing that happen, yes, our model's amazing, and we partner with incredible people and other non-governmental organisations, NGOs, and police and authorities and governments, but the only way of realising that vision is for miraculous God to intervene and to bring miracles. So yes, prayer and my faith is a big, big part of it. Speaking the truth is really important, whether the end result as a result of that is what we would want it to be or not. Because that's, I guess, part of the healing process for a lot of our clients. If the worst does happen and the person who hurt them doesn't get put in jail, the fact that they had the courage to stand up in court and tell the truth of what's happened to them is something to rejoice in. And we continue to pray for justice in all of the cases in which we work. And we really, really hope and pray that God will bring justice in those situations. But that justice is worth fighting for, no matter what happens.